Hey, folks.
Hey, Scott.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
How's it going?
Fine.
Yep.
Fine.
Yeah.
How are you?
I feel that. Yeah, I'm doing well. All right. So I think you all will get a notification that we're now recording, and we will get started. So thanks everybody for joining us here for our October meeting. My name is Scott Alspa. I use he, him pronouns. I am the chair of the 43rd District Democrats. It's great to be here with you. So to get us started, we are going to have a land acknowledgement by Jake Thanis, who is joining us tonight as a guest. He'll be speaking more later in regards to our resolution about federal recognition for the Duwamish tribe. But he's going to get us started with land acknowledgement. So Jake, please go ahead. I'm trying to get you unmuted.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott, for the intro. Yeah, my name is Jake Thanis, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm currently a graduate student at the University of Washington studying public administration at the Evans School. And I'm the current intern at the Duwamish Longhouse and Cultural Center. So I hope you all are excited for the chance to hear from Ken Workman tonight. But before we get started, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. It's also a bit of a grounding exercise, so it's going to be a little bit different than normal. So if you can, I'd like to ask that you close your eyes and use your imagination during this brief grounding exercise. Please sit back in your chair and take a couple seconds to focus on your breaths. I'd like to start by acknowledging the moment that has brought us here tonight, the bigger picture of why we must meet by Zoom, a global pandemic that requires we remain sheltered inside our homes. Homes with roofs over our heads that keep us dry from the rain, nestled inside walls that keep us warm, with a floor offering support, all of which rests upon the traditional territories of the Duwamish tribe. Let's acknowledge the size and space occupied between each one of us in the 43rd tonight. And remember that this is the home of the original stewards, the first people of Seattle, who have existed here since time immemorial. So tonight, we not only honor the history and culture of the Duwamish tribe, but we have an opportunity to act. As a community, we can decide to create a healthier society, but only after we've chosen to acknowledge the harm can the healing begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake, and thanks everybody for participating in that with us. Okay, so with that, we will go through one of our standard explanation of Robert's rules and our meetings norms. Let me share my screen very quickly with you all here. All right, so I'm not going to go into, well, I can go and present mode real quick. So we are meeting over Zoom. Many of you have been here before with us, but just as a reminder, if you need to seek the floor to speak, please use the raise your hand function. It's in the reactions window, or it may be, depending on your Zoom version, it might be in the participants panel. If we do need to do a quick poll, we'll ask you to use the yes or no reactions. General chat should be disabled. It might not be right now, but likely will be shortly. And so if you need help, please message Cassandra Henning, who's our meetings chair, who will help you get that straightened out. this is actually out of date. I don't think Bryce Colton is here with us tonight to help with voting code help, but Tara Gallagher can help you get your voting code if you need that as well. And we also are trying to stream on Facebook, but maybe don't have that set up yet either. But that is a notice for another time. So our typical meeting norms, we want to treat each other with dignity and respect. We also have some really fantastic guests here, so I want to include them in that as well. If you have a question that you don't know the answer to, whether about how the meetings run or presentation, please do ask. We have some really great presentations from, again, the Duwamish tribe and also folks from the Solidarity Budget campaign here tonight, and want to make sure you all get a chance to have your questions answered there. Step up, step back. If you are always talking at these meetings, that's great. We love the participation. Maybe consider whether you can leave more room for others. And if we haven't heard your voices much recently, we really would love to have you participate. So we want to make sure our meetings are for everyone. Just a quick reminder that everybody here is a volunteer, trying to make sure these meetings and our org run smoothly. So please have patience when we hit any speed bumps in the process. And then together we share responsibility for staying on time. We don't have we have a really great agenda for you tonight, but it is not too full. So I don't think we're going to run over tonight, but ask for folks to help us in that regard. The Robert's Rules of Order, this is not going to come up very much tonight, but just so everybody's on the same page, Robert's Rules of Order is the structure that we use to run our meetings. You don't need to know the details in order to participate. Just raise your hand and ask your question, or say you want to make a modification to something or approve something or otherwise, and we will help you translate that into the correct format. Again, if we really get deep in the Robert's Rules tonight, I would be very surprised. But if you are confused about what's going on, please raise your hand and we will make sure that you're able to participate. So thank you so much for that. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing this part of my screen and take us to our agenda really quickly. I'll put that in the chat for everyone. Oops, that is not a full link. There it is. So there is our agenda for folks to take a look at. I will share that here. So we have already gone through our land acknowledgement and our meeting norms. We are currently here on approving our agenda. There will be a brief chair's report. Then we're going to hear from our elections and PCOs committees about the get out the vote work we're doing. We're going to discuss a resolution and hear the history of the Duwamish tribe and their fight for federal recognition. And then we'll have a presentation on the Seattle Solidarity budget and get into some committee reports. So are there any modifications that folks want to make to this agenda? Any changes? Any objections to approving this agenda? All right, seeing none, we have an agenda. And are there any corrections or updates to our September meeting minutes? Any adjustments to our September meeting minutes? I think the link is updated there. The September meeting minutes mostly contain the results from our endorsements in September. So if you want to see the vote totals, you can go check those out. But seeing no adjustments, we have approved our September meetings minutes and our agenda, and we will continue going forward. So I'm going to stop sharing again briefly. to give my chair's report, I just want to start off by acknowledging the recent passing of Dick Kelly, who was a former 43rd District Democrats chair. I didn't have the chance to meet Dick, but I heard from multiple folks, including State Senator Jamie Peterson and Representative Javier Valdez and others in the 43rd about what a presence Dick was in the fight for our shared progressive values. He ran Morris Udall's campaign in 1976. He helped run Charles Royer's campaign for Seattle mayor. He served as deputy mayor and brought affirmative action hiring practices to Seattle city government. He ran for lieutenant governor in 1992 and was one of the first candidates to accept zero contributions from corporate lobbyists. And then in 2006, he ran for State House in the 43rd on a campaign of expanding LGBTQ rights and combating climate change and all of those values that we are still fighting for today. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge his contributions to our district and to the broader struggle we're all in for equal rights for all. So thank you to Dick and his family for sharing more about his life. I put a link in the agenda to a Stranger article that was written about him, and I encourage folks to read that and get the full details. The next thing that I want to talk about in our chair's report and is here on the agenda, there are two links, is the upcoming election and our endorsed candidates. And so we're going to talk about what we're doing here as an organization and the 43rd to reach out to voters. We've sent a boatload of postcards to folks already. So really appreciate folks who have contributed to that. But I am somewhat concerned about, in particular, the city attorney's race. Our endorsed candidate, Nicole Thomas Kennedy, is in a struggle against a Republican. It is really scary to me that we have a Republican who has a really good chance of being elected city attorney in Seattle. So we sent out yesterday morning a link to a meet and greet that we are co-hosting with Nicole Thomas Kennedy. This is a no pressure, like no fundraising meet and greet where we're trying to invite folks to come hear directly from Nicole. I know all of you have seen the coverage of some tweets that were sent in 2020. I don't think those were good tweets. I know many of us don't think those were good tweets, but they have really overshadowed this race. It makes me sad to see so many folks regurgitating that and all of the focus being on that when going through Ann Davison's tweets, you find somebody who is against mask mandates in May of last year, somebody who is against mandatory sex ed for students, somebody who wants to round up homeless people and put them in some like abandoned Sam's Club. These are not our values. Ann Davison, she does not share them. I know that Nicole is proposing some things, doing things differently than we have in the past. I know that can be disconcerting to folks, but it's really, really important that all of us take the time to talk to our friends, our family, our neighbors about why this race is really important so that we don't lose all the progress we're making. It would be a really big step backwards for our city to have Ann Davison in charge of defending Jumpstart, in charge of defending renters' rights, tenant rights. That's not a future that we want, and it's going to make it really hard for our city going forward if she's elected. So really encourage folks to reach out to everybody you know about all of our endorsed candidates and how great they are, but especially city attorney folks are going to need help cutting through the noise because it is really noisy out there this year. So thank you for that. There is, I'm going to share these two links that are both in the agenda. It's taking me longer to copy them. So Thursday at 5:30, there's the meet and greet. This is the Zoom link where folks can register to attend that. And then I also really suggest folks read and share this interview that Nicole gave with Publicola about what she's actually proposing. Because I think when folks hear it from her, they're going to see why what she's proposing is a good idea. And that's what we need to get that message out as much as we can. So with that, that is my chair's report. I really appreciate everybody's sprinting towards the finish line. We've got a couple of weeks left here. And so with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sam McVitie and Cody Olson, our elections and PCO chairs, to discuss our postcard campaign and the work we are doing there. And I think we're very close to getting all of our cards out, but we need a little more help from folks to get that done. So Sam and Cody, please take it away. And I'm muting both of you now. So.
Okay. Cody, do you want to start?
Yeah, sounds good. So as you might have seen from the email or heard from my call, we have postcards this year because Scott and myself and the rest of the board have worked really hard to restart our PAC, our Political Action Committee, meaning that we can now spend money to print literature in support of these awesome candidates that we have endorsed. So we've been giving out postcard packets of 60 postcards that are targeted towards a group of 5,000 voters within the 43rd LD that reside in difficult to reach locations, multi-unit apartment complexes like the one that I live in. So places that we typically struggle to I think make meaningful contact with during get out the vote season. We'll be sending those folks I think a well-made postcard that has a personalized message from every PCO or volunteer who's filling it out. So we're excited there. And we've sent out, I think, over, I don't actually have the number off the top of my head. Let me see if I can grab it. I know it's over 20 packets of 60 postcards. Oh, actually, looks like the number is about 30. Oh, shoot. No, we're about 60, I would say. So we've sent out about 60 packets of those 60 postcards, and we have, I would say, about 20 of these left, maybe a little less. So I think Sam will be sharing a link in the chat and he can speak more to that. But if you've been wanting to jump in on the postcards but haven't been able to because, life can be busy, we understand. We would just encourage you to fill out the link that Sam is going to share and jump on the postcards with us. We'd love to have you.
Great. Yeah, so we made the form super short, and we'll figure out how to get the postcards to you. Want to make it super easy, and I just finished up my packet today. I can assure you it's a commitment, but it's not too much of one. And you just take breaks between the postcards when your hand gets tired. It's totally fine. And huge thanks to the folks that have already done those packets. I think that this will get some people out, and that'll be really important. And then I just also, from the elections committee, wanted to talk about some upcoming canvases that we have. So there's a canvass for NTK on 10/24, and so there's a link to that in the agenda, and I'll drop these both into the chat as well. And then on 10/30, there's a canvass for Nikita, and that's going to be in the 43rd. And so really hoping to get a lot of folks turned out for that. Really excited to get Nikita on the city council and hope to see a really big turnout there. I think that's what we got. Cody, anything else?
No, I am just realizing that I maybe didn't shout out our communications chair, Kelsey Hamlin, by name. And just want to say that Kelsey did a ton of great work. I think we were all putting in great work, but I think Kelsey's work is, it's visible, it's impactful, it's super tangible, and we're really happy that she was able to do that for us.
Yes, Kelsey designed our postcards and they look fantastic. So yeah, really.
Yes. And I'm actually getting a question here about what is the stamp situation with the postcards. Great question. So every postcard packet includes 60 postcards that are already pre-addressed, though not pre-stamped, pre-addressed to the voters that we're targeting. And it includes corresponding 60 stamps as well. They need to be placed on the postcard. So it's like you got sheet of postcards, sheet of stamps, combine the two, and then there's some instructions there with a little bit of a script, which is kind of a jumping off point for the personalized message that you can write on there.
Yep, absolutely. Are there any other questions about our Get Out the Vote work? All right. Thank you all for the work you're doing, getting out postcards, for the work you're doing, calling voters, knocking on doors, canvassing. I know folks are volunteering in different campaigns. Really appreciate it. You're doing great. Keep it up for the next few weeks, and we can rest afterwards. So thanks so much for that. And if you do have any questions, please message Cody or Sam. I'll actually make you both co-hosts so that folks can message you, and they will get you straightened out and make sure you get some postcards. And yeah, really appreciate it.
And if I might jump in here real quick, because I did forget to mention that I appreciate you making me a co-host. I'm actually taking off a little bit early tonight, but I will just give me a second here. I will put my phone number here in the chat. Yeah, if you have any issues or are just trying to coordinate when you can pick up a postcard, feel free to give me a call or a text there, but didn't want folks to try to pull up my name and message it and be like, where is he? So taking off a little early, but you can hit up the number.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Cody. Really appreciate that. Okay, so with that, we will move into the rest of our program for tonight. So next on our agenda is a presentation and resolution in support of the 43rd Democrats advocating for federal recognition for the Duwamish tribe. Here to discuss the history of the Duwamish tribe, the history of the land that we are all distributed on tonight, even if we're not in the same place, is Ken Workman. Ken is the great grandson of Chief Seattle. He is a former Duwamish Tribal Council member, as well as a former Duwamish Tribal Services president. Was born here in Seattle. And really appreciate you taking the time to come help educate us, Ken, and so we can help support the Duwamish tribe. So I will let you take it away, and then we'll have time for questions after Ken gives his presentation.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for having us in our native language. And when I'm speaking half in English and half in this language called Lushootseed. And this is the language that my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Chief Seattle, spoke. This is the language that he spoke prior, and this was language prior to the Chinook language of our 1855 treaty signing. So this is also a language that was taken away from us as Native people. And so it's coming back. And so if you hear me waffle in and out of English and Lushootseed, that's just how my mind is working at the time. So in Native language, my name is Yayustobs. It means workman. So officially, Yayustobs Tidsda at the Duwabs. I am workman of the Duwamish tribe. And I tend to put some inflection on that, but it really means great-great-great-great-grandson of Chief Seattle. And so with that, you know where you are. I'm a member of the people of the inside, so you have to wonder what that means. And then you know my family tree. So then we say it like this so that you go, oh, I know your cousin, or I know your aunt, or I now know who you are. And because Seattle was colonized so very few years ago, just 170 years ago or so, that all of this stuff is still fresh with us as humans, as Native people. And so when I'm talking to you today and we're talking about the recognition, the federal recognition of the Duwamish tribe, we're currently not federally recognized. It's about what has happened to us, and it's about where you are, and it's about our our relationship as Duwamish people with this land, and why we struggle for this recognition, this federal recognition. And so when I talk about the Duwamish people, we're talking about the people of Lake Washington. And this is really Hachu. This is the original name of the lake, it's Hachu. And so the people that lived on Lake Washington are Hachu Abs, Abs being people. It's sort of like Mish on the end of a word today, like Duwamish, Snohomish, Suquamish. Mish is the people. So Abs is the same way. We are the people of Renton, the Black River people. So it's Hitachstolak Abs. Stolak is river. And we are the people of the Duwamish River, the inside, the Duabs. And collectively, we make up the Duwamish people. And so I would like to talk to you about who we are so that when we're in this conversation about recognition of these people that were here, and we continue to be here as living people, that you'll understand better about where you are and where the world is today in relationship to us as Indigenous people, still here in Seattle. And so for us as Duwamish people, we're attached to this land that, as I said, only 170 years ago was occupied by nothing more than deer and bear and elk and eagle and salmon. And there was, the lake was here. There were a handful of creeks that were here. And we are hunter-gatherers. We never made it to the Bronze Age. And so this is how we've lived for 10,000 years, for 12,000 years, since the ice went away. And we have stories about that. This is how we've lived. And so it's only been in the last 170 years that things got turned upside down. And they got turned upside down in large part because my grandfather, and when I'm talking about grandfather, I'm talking about this person the world knows as Chief Seattle. When he stood on the shores of Alki and he says, Tlaleo Tlaleo means come ashore. Tlaleo Disiaya Disha Pada Tea Duwams. Come ashore onto this land of the Duwamish. You are invited here. You are welcome here. And so that's how we greet people. And that's what happened 170 years ago when my grandfather invited these new people, these strangers onto this land. And then in 3 years, 2 months and 9 days, we were told as Duwamish people that we had to leave. So we've occupied this land for 10,000 years. And in this very short window of time, these strangers came in and said, you have to leave now and you have to go to these other places to live. Well, we couldn't do that. There's no fish on these other places. There's no hunting in these other places. And a human being at the time, as hunter and gatherers, we occupied a certain number of square miles per person in order to survive. And that wasn't going to happen in 1855 when these colonists tried to turn us into farmers. We didn't know what farming was. And so this is where our ancestors are, on this land. They're on Capitol Hill. They're in downtown Seattle. They're over there in the Madison Park. They're around the University District and Lake Union. And when I say they're around there, what I'm talking about is the bones of the Duwamish people are still here. They're on the land, the 43rd district. They're on that land and underneath your houses, and they're underneath your sidewalks, and they're even underneath your current cemeteries. Our bones are still there, and we're still part of the environment. So in 1855, and that would be 164 years ago, Chief Seattle is getting ready to sign this treaty and say, give away all this land, along with many other of chiefs and sub-chiefs of tribes. He's just one of many. And his request, his demand really at the time was unencumbered access to our burial grounds. Now, this is important in the 43rd district because so many people are buried there. They're in the ground and they've been in the ground for thousands of years. And once you're in the ground, all that stuff that was you as a human being is changed, that you decay, and then you go back up into the trees through this relationship with the fungi that's in the ground and the roots of the trees. Dr. Susan Simard out of British Columbia has studied the migration of materials, DNA from the ground up through the roots of trees and into the trees. And so this is what I wanted to share with you, that you are sitting on top of these places where the Duwamish people are still in the ground and where we're still above the ground and talking to you today. And that when we say that the Duwamish people have a relationship with the earth, we have it through the roots of these trees and the roots of the berries and the roots of the grass, that we're part of the planet, just as you're a part of the planet. And we recognize this. We recognize that our relatives in their DNA at this molecular level are in the trees and they're underneath your foundations. And it's through these roots, it's through the symbiotic relationship with the fungi in the ground and the roots in the trees that the ancient Duwamish continue to live. And this is why we fight so hard for federal recognition, that without it, we as a people struggle, and COVID hit us hard. And we had to fend for ourselves, just as we have had to fend for ourselves for 170 years now. We're not federally recognized. The government doesn't help us like they help other tribes. And when we get sick, we are on our own. We get no help. We get no educational help, no housing help or anything. And so this is why I would ask the 43rd Legislative District, you, to support the Duwamish resolution for federal acknowledgement, that you might help us steward this land that this city is on, that is the job of the Duwamish people that are still here. And so I'm asking for your support on this resolution to help us become federally recognized so that we can better steward the land upon which Seattle resides today, and to take care of the ground and those bones, and we can move this planet forward in a good way. So with that, I'll stop. Otherwise, I'll talk on and on for hours. And so I'll take any questions. It's up to Scott how he wants to moderate this, or I'll pass it on to Jake. He has a lot more knowledge on this resolution than I do. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ken. I think we could all listen to you for hours on end. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Do folks have any questions right now for Ken that we want to get into, or we can go over the resolution and kind of take questions on that as a whole? I'm seeing Rich's hand up. So Rich, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Rich, I think we accidentally muted you again there.
I see Rich's face.
So this is Connie. It's actually Connie Bogut. Ken, thank you for being here tonight. And I'm wondering, can you help us understand the arguments that the Muckleshoots and Puyallups and Tulalip are making against this request for recognition, this push for recognition? They say in their ad in the Seattle Times that they don't recognize the Duwamish organization as an Indian tribe, but rather a small group descending from a handful of early marriages with non-Indian settlers. And they also say, and this really kind of worries me, support for their effort is an affront to our sovereignty and the culture we have fought so long to preserve. Can you help us understand that, their position?
I can tell you what our position is. And that is that we recognize our descendancy through our DNA. And so when we are described as being descendants of the original natives, this is true. With regard to these other tribes that are around us, we as Duwamish people are all around the world. We are in fact, we have our relatives through our blood relatives who are on these other tribes. And it's a matter of survival. If in fact, you're given a choice of dying in a week of starvation or going to a federally recognized tribe to live, then I certainly don't blame anybody for going to another place so that they might live. We as Duwamish are attached to the ground, and that's what I was trying to say. And that a federally recognized tribe, it's federally recognized. It means that the rest of the United States, through our governorship, is recognizing that people that live in these places, in this bounded place, that the United States government will recognize them and help them. But because we as Duwamish were removed from our place, which is Seattle, that we do not have any property, and that was used against us by the United States government, that would say, you don't have any land, so therefore you don't exist. We do not recognize you as a people. Now, this is being used against us in modern society. First, it was the United States government was doing it, and now we have our relatives on these places, on these reservations, who say, we don't recognize you either. So I have to argue, when will it end? So I don't know if that answers your question, but I get kind of wound up on this stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ken. I appreciate it. Linda. Go ahead, Linda.
So thank you. So first of all, Mr. Workman, I'd like to thank you for your eloquence and for your perspective on how we as fellow Seattleites need to look at this place where we are. And I'm seeking to understand, because I know you were recognized for a nanosecond, and then that was revoked. So I'm wondering, what are the implications economically, aside from the ones you've mentioned, of recognition that we should know about before we vote?
Well, I can't really say with any kind of authority on that. And so what I will do is I will defer that to Jake Theonis, so that he might be able to better answer your question. It's a good question, and I appreciate it, but I don't have the answer.
Yeah, so I'm happy to chime in, and we will go over some of these details too. I want to backtrack just a little bit to the prior question first. And, you know, what we're doing here tonight with this resolution is really, the intent is to uplift local history of the Duwamish tribe and help to extend our voices to the federal government. In no way does this create any harm to any other tribe, any federally recognized tribe. That is a false narrative, and we should know to reject that. It's based on this zero-sum mentality, which, you know, I just don't accept. You know, it's like we got to protect each one of the little slices that we're given. I think we live in a country and in an area where there is an abundance of wealth in land and resources and ideas and opportunity. and we can really hold our elected officials accountable to not only follow through on their promises, but ensure that we build a healthier community for everybody. And that's kind of where we're coming from tonight, is trying to uplift Ken and the rest of the Duwamish tribe, and acknowledge that they have been through a century and a half plus of trauma inflicted upon them by the federal government and the local government, including settlers and individuals in the city of Seattle. And we have an opportunity to do something different. And so that's to just kind of generally speak to it. We did write the resolution. We can get into it a little bit. But we tried to pack a lot of information in there so that it is an educational opportunity for everybody to kind of get a comprehensive story of a lot of the information that's typically left out, both in the courts and in the news media, so that you have the tools, that have actively been taken out off the table, out of the conversation. So I just wanted to say that. And then I'm so sorry. Can you ask your question really quickly again? And then I'm happy to address it if I didn't just address it.
So I think Mr. Workman spoke a little bit to the kinds of, for example, healthcare that tribal members would have access to if recognized, that they don't have now. And that was really my question. What are some of the benefits that would accrue to the Duwamish if they are when they are federally recognized?
Yeah, healthcare is a huge one, and it's a major issue, obviously, right now during a pandemic, which Ken mentioned. Another one is education, and also hunting and fishing rights too. So, Ken, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about eagle feathers specifically, but also cultural practices. They're not, it's the simplest stuff that you wouldn't typically think is impactful that has a huge devastating effect on them. So I'm gonna see if Ken, you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. Thanks, Jake. Let's talk about eagle feathers a little bit. Eagle's a protected bird. It's a national symbol, United States national symbol. And and there are native tribes that use these national symbols in their religious ceremonies. But I, as a Duwamish, am not federally recognized. And therein lies the rub. Because I'm not federally recognized, if I am caught holding an eagle feather, which is used in religious ceremony, that I will be fined $250,000 and thrown in jail. But my neighbor, who is federally recognized, can practice his religion, and he will not be thrown in jail. So the United States government has denied me my freedom of religion, and they have threatened me with imprisonment for just being me. So this hurts dearly. So I was talking about DNA in trees, and that's all scientific. That's scientific. We all know that. But now we're starting to run into this cultural thing where I'm not allowed to practice religion, but it seems like in the land of the free and the home of the brave, everybody else gets to practice except me. So this intergenerational trauma continues. We are not far removed from the time when there was nothing out here but native people. And now all of a sudden, the whole world has changed upside down. It's gotten much smaller. And we as Duwamish people say, Gwigwi Hidak. This word, it means welcome. We welcome the whole world to this place called Seattle.
Thank you for sharing that, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. So Al, I saw your comment in the chat. Do you have a question? Resolution.
Yeah, I have a question too, and I think I'm very interested in this whole history of the area and that Ken has brought up and of the peoples that have been here. But I know Elizabeth Warren ran into a lot of trouble by making claims about Indian ancestry based on DNA versus being enrolled in a tribe. So that's a whole area I don't want to get into because it's not, it's not my place to make these decisions. But I have a really hard time, us as the 43rd, stepping in and really make any statements about this, given we are very much not a Native organization. So what do you have to say on that, Ken, about the difference between DNA versus enrollment as a evidence of being a member of a tribe?
I would go back to my previous argument, and that is that the United States government has defined boundaries, and they have moved Native people into these boundaries. And they have told these people, if you stay within these boundaries, then we will recognize you. We will give you this moniker called federal recognition. And along with that come all of these benefits that we were talking about. On the other hand, as soon as those Native people leave their traditional areas, the places where their ancestors' bones are in the ground, then they suffer and this is just my experience, this trauma. And I would use the Trail of Tears, the 5 civilized tribes from, the East Coast who now live in Oklahoma. They are separated from their ancestral grounds, the prime grounds on the East Coast, where they were taken from that and they were moved over to this place called, I don't know what it's called, Oklahoma and those places. And so when you're talking about reservations and you're talking about DNA, then I'm on the side of the DNA. I recognize all of my friends and all of the trauma that they go through, and I don't hold anything against them, nothing. These people are trying to survive. Some people came into this country in 1492. They went back to Europe in 1493. The doctrine of discovery was formed by the Catholic Church, and that said, if people of a certain religion are not like ours, then they don't exist and you can claim their lands. And so that carries on today, that moniker of doctrine of discovery. I had asked you to look it up. If you're a student of history, then I would also ask you to go over to the Log House Museum and read the undiscovered papers of Doc Maynard. Doc Maynard was out here in 1856. He's a well-known Seattleite, and his family recently discovered papers in an attic. They were going to throw this box away, and in the box were many papers of Doc Maynard writing to his family on the East Coast, and these papers are not mentioned in any history books. History is written by the victor, and these papers were hidden. Our histories are hidden. And so I know I went off track here, and I apologize for that, but if you are in fact a student of history, I would encourage you to go over to the Log House Museum, and at the same time, the Duwamish Longhouse has some of these papers as well. They are the unpublished papers of Doc Maynard that have just come to light. Our official release started 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ken. Okay, so at this point, I think, Jake, if you could just give a really brief overview of the resolution, and then we could kind of dive into specific discussion on that. That'd be great.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to look it over. Like I said before, we really looked at this as an opportunity to bring some of the history to light that doesn't often make it into public discourse within the city. If you do have any questions on any parts of it, I'm happy to address that. I'll repeat some things that have been mentioned earlier. So the Duwamish tribe was recognized by the Clinton administration in 2001. And then less than 48 hours later, the Bush administration came into power, and they basically reversed everything the Clinton administration had done. So they withdrew the federal recognition status. It's been over 20 years and it still hasn't been reinstated. You know, if we do nothing, we continue to perpetuate this status quo, this harm that is playing out in real time within our city. You know, we benefit from being here. And so, you know, it really makes the case that given a lot of this historical trauma, the city of Seattle participated in it by passing Ordinance 5, which basically banned Native Americans from owning property in the city. And, you know, how do you live and work in a city that your entire ancestry has been in since time immemorial if you can't actually own a property in, you know, westernized society? So where do you live? So a lot of Duwamish were forced down to the beaches. They literally lived on beaches, which were no man's land. And then another kind of like weapon that has been used against the tribe is this gap in written documented history between 1915 and 1925. And so we kind of pick that apart a little bit in the resolution, in that, you know, in 1916, the Ballard Locks opened and Lake Washington drained, got lower by 25 feet. The Black River, which is down by Renton and Tukwila, basically dried up overnight. There's photos of the entire river emptied down to the mud and settlers watching like fish flopping around in the mud. You know, those are salmon. Those are the food source of the Duwamish tribe. So they don't have a river anymore to get around. That's transportation. They don't have their food source. The salmon are all gone or have gone elsewhere because there's no water. They can't own land. Their longhouses have all been burned down. And what happens in 1918? Well, the pandemic, the Spanish flu occurs. And so, you know, you've basically, the US government intentionally, the Army Corps of Engineers, and even like early settlers in the city of Seattle kind of like employed this divide and conquer strategy. Is if we can continue putting pressure on them, they'll finally, you know, disband, and they won't be here, and we'll be, you know, a white only city, which is what was envisioned. So it's playing out today. You're part of it. I'm part of it. We're all part of it. And that means that we have an opportunity to take action. And that's really what this is about. Again, happy to go into any of the specific questions. But, you know, this is really about doing our part to honor the treaty. We've benefited from that treaty very directly. And so, you know, let's stand up and hold some accountability to our federally elected officials. I'll also say too, the petition has already been endorsed by over 50 local partners. This is a coalition of labor unions, companies, organizations, and religious groups, including several public officials as well. Most prominently, MLK Labor Union endorsed, 350 Seattle, Protectors of the Salish Potlatch Fund, Historical Societies of Shoreline and Southwest Seattle, Faith Action Network, SURGE, the Seattle Public School Board, and as of last Monday, the 37th Legislative District Democrats signed on. Oh, and even the Seattle Times editorial board. So things are changing, and here's our opportunity to stand up for justice and stand with the Duwamish tribe.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Jake. Do folks have any questions about the resolution before we get into motions and other things?
I'll also mention real quick, when we wrote this, there was only 65,000 signatures on the petition, and now there's almost 68. So we've seen increases of 3,000 just in a matter of a couple weeks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jake. So are there any questions? Any questions? Okay, are there any motions. I saw someone mention in the chat earlier that they were interested in making one, so just opening the floor for that. If not, we'll move to debate. Al, is your thumb supposed to be a hand? I assume.
Oops. Yeah, it's supposed to be a hand.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to make that motion to table this this amendment or whatever it is, table this proposal until we have a chance to hear from a representative of the Muckleshoot tribe. I mean, I was kind of surprised to see the full page ad in the Seattle Times a couple of months ago, where they were very hostile to the idea of the Duwamish group becoming an officially recognized tribe. And I do not feel comfortable us making a call on that without hearing their point of view.
Sure. Okay, so that motion has been made. It needs a second. And just to clarify Al's motion, it's a motion to postpone consideration of this resolution until, yeah, we could have a member of the Muckleshoot tribe join us as well. We would try and do that shortly at our next meeting, likely, if it were to be postponed. Sorry, so is there a second for that motion? I'm looking for a second via somebody raising their hand. All right, is that looks like a second?
Yes, this is Connie Bogan. I second.
Okay, yep. Okay, so Al, you, I think, spoke to your resolution there. Did you have anything extra, or your motion, do you have anything extra to add?
No, it's just I feel extremely uncomfortable getting in between Native organizations, and the Muckleshoot clearly feel they are the legitimate heirs to the Duwamish, and I have a really hard time stepping in the middle of that.
Okay, is there a speaker against the motion? Holly, Annabelle, Annabelle, I saw your hand first there.
I would actually like to make a motion to amend the motion.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we do that
You can't
before
do
or
that.
after the debate.
What is your motion to amend?
My motion is to amend it to postpone to no later than what's our next meeting in November.
Yep.
And I don't think we should basically filibuster ourselves on waiting for the Muckleshoot tribe to come and talk to us if they don't want to talk to us.
Okay, so just to give everybody a sense of our schedule, we will have a meeting on the third Tuesday in November. I don't know what date that is exactly. We will not have a meeting in December, and then our next meeting will be in January of 2022. So Annabelle is suggesting we motion this to or change this to postpone to November, and I presume send an invite to the Muckleshoot tribe to send a representative and take this up again, whether or not they agree to that.
I will note we can always vote to postpone again in November if that's what the body wants to do.
So I will ask, is there any objection to making that change? I see a bunch of hands. Sorry, I realized that those are for other things. So if somebody, Al says he doesn't have an objection. Paul or Tony, do you have any objections to adopting that change to the motion?
No.
I don't. Okay, great. So we will adopt that change to the motion. All right, then we're looking for speakers against the modified motion. Paul, I see your hand is up, I believe, for that purpose, right?
Yeah, there were some others who had their hands up first, so I thought I saw Kelsey and others.
I did see Kelsey. Kelsey, if you want to speak to it, please go ahead.
I do believe there was someone before me too. That might have been Annabelle, though. I saw another.
It was Annabelle. Yep. So
okay. Yeah, so I guess at this point, I feel like it is our duty as largely descendants from colonizers, mostly in the 43rd membership anyway, to do this very minutiae form of reparations to the folks who've been on this land in time immemorial. So, and I also don't necessarily view it as stepping in between tribes much as it is doing our due diligence for reparations. So that is my retort.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. Okay, is there another speaker in favor of the motion to postpone? Tony, are you speaking in favor or against?
Oh, can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Oh, no, I was just speaking for tabling the conversation till November.
You wanted to speak in favor of postponing?
Yeah,
Okay, great, then go ahead.
well, I think it's fair. I think it's fair enough. To be honest, I'd like to hear both sides before we make the motion. And that's basically it. I don't think November is unreasonable to continue the discussion. But if there's a representative from the Muckleshoot tribe that would like to come in and talk to us, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Tony. So then, Paul, if you want to speak against, go ahead. Just as a refresher for folks, for all of our debates, we have 3 speakers for, 3 against. So we're just going through that process here. So Paul, go ahead.
To counter this amendment or motion, I think it's incumbent upon us as, for the most part, as Kelsey put it, colonizers in this land, when the descendants of Chief Seattle, for whom the city in which we live is named, come to us and ask that their existence, their culture, their people be recognized in a fashion that many other tribes have been recognized in the past, that for us to say it's somebody else needs to give them the warrant to make that ask feels kind of crappy. And so I would recommend that we do what the descendants of Chief Seattle are asking us to do, which is support their recognition.
Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. All right, do we have any other speakers in favor? If not, we will go ahead with a vote. Sharon.
I'm not in favor of the motion. I'd actually like to speak against it if there's still an option. It sounds like we had 2 against. Is that true?
We've had 2 in favor and 2 against so far. So I'm looking for another in favor at the moment.
Okay.
Any other folks speaking in favor? All right. Rich or Connie? And then Sharon, you'll be up next.
So you're asking for a statement in favor of the motion to postpone?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so I'm speaking in favor of the motion to postpone because the Muckleshoots and others are making the claim that they are the true descendants of the Duwamish people. And I just feel that we need to hear about that. It may be a spurious claim that we would reject, but we need to hear that before we make a vote, before we vote on the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Connie. All right, and then Sharon.
Thanks. You can hear me, right? Great. So we've heard Jake and Ken talk pretty eloquently about the historical accidents about why the Duwamish are not recognized today. So I think that's been well established. But what I'd like to respond to is I think that we have a healthy, we collectively have a healthy nervousness around stepping between what might be like a family dispute or whatever. And I guess what I want to remind ourselves about is that, you know, when one group of white people is against another group of white people, we don't necessarily listen to the second group and say, oh, they just disagree. So, you know, we just keep that first in mind. And then the second thing is, I don't feel that the Muckleshoot have not been heard. Collectively, the groups, the tribes that are against this bring in something like $1.3 billion in revenue. And it turns out that actually the majority of Indigenous people in Washington state are not members of federally recognized tribes. They are urban natives. They are natives like the Duwamish. There are other tribes within Washington state that are not recognized, and they have very little voice. And so we should keep that in mind, that when we do both this like, I need to make sure I hear both sides, ask ourselves, do we really lack for hearing the voice of one side versus another? We want to be careful about how, because one of the motivations for this is what something Jake put out there, which is zero-sum game thinking. And that is something that the US federal government has kind of put Native peoples in a bind, right? There's a perception that if more tribes are recognized, then the tribes that exist will have to share power. And that is something we as colonizers do, because it's easier to control people if we make them feel like that. And so they'll try to keep even sort of less privileged groups in that situation. So I think that I would honor that questioning that we have. It comes from a noble place, but I just want to speak to the idea that that we don't hear from the Muckleshoot is false. They have the money to put full page ads in the Seattle Times.
Yeah, Sharon, I hate to jump in. Thank you for your comments. I think we're at time. And sorry for not making the time clearer to folks. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, we've heard 3 for, and 3 against. So we are going to move to a vote on whether to postpone this resolution until November. Annabelle, I believe you should have a voting form for us. If you could share that in the chat, folks will need to use the voting codes which were sent to your email. If you don't have your voting code, please message Tara Gallagher and she can help you get that. We should have the form up momentarily, I think, and so now's a good time to go get your code.
No,
right.
I paraphrased the motion in the description there, since I don't know that there was a clear and precise statement of the wording of the motion. So Al, if you take issue with that description of it, please yell.
Yeah, thanks for that, Annabelle. I think it's, from my end, it's clear, but we'll get that straightened out if you need to. So folks, if you're voting yes, then you're voting to postpone this until November, and we'll send an invite to somebody, a representative from the Muckleshoot tribe. If you vote no, then we'll take this up this evening and move to discussion on the resolution itself. Thanks for bearing with us on this, everybody. All right, so I want to give it a few minutes. Tara, how are we getting a lot of folks that need help with their voting codes, or?
No, only a couple, so I'm caught up.
Oh, okay, great. So we'll give it just another couple of minutes here till 8:13, and then we'll close the voting. So I will we'll take a very brief break and be back shortly. Unless there's any committee chairs who have a really short announcement or report to give, we could slide that in here now for the next couple minutes. Otherwise, we have some longer ones we'll get to during that section of the meeting. All right, seeing none, we'll break for just another minute here. Thanks, everyone. All right, I'm getting a question from someone about how to use your voting code. So that's a great question. Thank you for that reminder. Should have given a better explanation. So to use your code and vote on this, you're going to click on the link that is in the chat. You're going to put your code into the enter your voting code field. You put it there. It's a short sequence of letters and numbers. You can just copy paste it and then make your vote and then submit, and that will send it to our backend that tallies up those votes for us. And just a clarifying note for folks, during endorsements meetings, which are a secret ballot, I do vote on these motions. When I'm chairing meetings myself, I don't vote. So just want to put that out there so everyone is aware. All right, someone's asking for the link. It is in the chat, but I'm sending it directly. So Connie, you should have it there. All right. Connie, were you able to vote? All right, Annabelle, do we have results?
I'm checking to see if we're still getting votes coming in. Seems like people were still voting, so.
All right, heard that Connie was able to vote. That's great. All right, if anybody else hasn't been able to vote, let us know now. Otherwise, we're gonna close this.
Just did one more code.
Okay, thank you, Tara. All right, have we seen that one come in, Annabelle?
Checking. I think so. We saw a couple come in at 8:14. Haven't seen anything since. It's been about a minute since the last vote came in.
Okay, so if anyone hasn't voted and is still having trouble, please raise your hand and we will help you out. Otherwise, we're gonna call it closed. And whatever votes we take next, I'm sure will go smoother. Thanks everybody for bearing with us. The first one is always a little bit longer. All right, so Annabelle, can you share results with us?
I can indeed. So we received 28 ballots. Yes received 8 votes, 28.57%. No received 20 votes, 71.43%. So the motion does not pass.
Okay, great. Thank you everybody for bearing with us there. So that motion, again, as Annabelle said, does not pass. So we're going to proceed to debate on the resolution itself. So I am looking for a speaker in favor. And again, we will alternate speakers for and against, and folks are going to have 1 minute. So I'll time that myself, but just try and pay attention to your time. So Camille, are you speaking in favor?
Yeah, I would like to speak in favor of the resolution. So I think that pretty much what I would have said, or I could never have put so eloquently, was put very well by Sharon. But what I do want to add to what she said and what Ken said and what Jake said and all of the people that have spoken so far in favor of this resolution and about this resolution is that the 43rd District Democrats pays real rent to the Duwamish tribe. This is something that we can't just financially support the Duwamish tribe. Well, that is a good reparation that we can do as a lot of white colonizers in this space. It is just a single step, and so we need to put actions behind our money, and so supporting this resolution is one very, very basic way that we can do that. And additionally, I want to call out that in the 2018, the most recent version of our organization's platform, it says very explicitly, we, the 43rd Democrats, support restoration of federal recognition of formerly recognized tribes, and we support the recognition of the Duwamish tribe. And that is what I will put there. I'm gonna link that into the chat as well so that you can all see it's at the bottom of the platform.
Thank you, Camille. Yep, so that is time. Okay, Linda, are you speaking for or against?
I'd be speaking for.
For, okay. Is there a speaker? Oops, sorry, I just hit mute on somebody else. Is there a speaker against passing the resolution? Is there a speaker against? If there's not a speaker against, we will move to a vote. In fact, I will ask if there's unanimous consent to pass the resolution. Last call for a speaker against. Okay, seeing no speaker against, we will end debate. So thanks, Linda, for volunteering. Because there was no speaker against, I will ask the question, is there any objection to passing this resolution via unanimous consent? Oh, I see Al's hand is up. I'm trying to unmute you, Al.
Yeah, I pushed the wrong button. Yeah, I object to unanimous consent.
Okay, sounds good. With that, we will go to a vote with voting codes again. Annabelle has beaten me to it and shared that in the link. Yeah, so folks, if you could go do the exact same thing we just did, we'll give this another couple minutes, about 8:22 or so.
Note as a reminder, A yes on this vote is a yes to adopt the resolution.
Yes, thank you, Annabelle, for that. And the language is very clear about that. So appreciate it. All right, I know we're waiting on a code for one person. Annabelle, are the results clear to folks, or?
One moment, let me check.
Sure.
They look pretty clear, but my result tabulator sheet is doing something funky, so I don't have precise numbers yet. So I'd prefer to hold off on providing actual data.
Okay, sounds good. We're working on getting that code. It sounds like we're good to have results when you are able to get them tabulated, right? All right, do we have results, Annabelle, or are we still working on it?
No.
Okay. And thank you for your patience, everyone. I really appreciate it. So we're working as quickly as we can.
I suggest going to a committee report or something while I debug what's going on here.
Okay, sure. Do we have any committee updates to give that we can fit in now rather than after our solidarity budget presentation?
I can take about 2 minutes, Scott.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me get my video going. All right. Hi, everybody. I want to remind you that the deadline to get your comments in for the State Redistricting Commission, I mean, the deadline, if you really want your comments to be considered, is this Friday, October 22nd. And there's a number of ways to speak up. We sent out an email with links to all of those ways that you can speak up. It was sent at 8:21 a.m. this morning, and it's titled "Our State Needs Your Voice for Fair Redistricting." All of the links that you need are in there. You have the option to submit letter or video testimony to the commission. You can draw your own suggested map, which is really cool. And you can also just comment on the commissioner proposed maps. Like if you see something that doesn't look quite right to you, you can actually comment right on that area. Yeah, and we just really hope you'll get your comments in, maybe go on record about where you think 43rd communities should be kept together, but also go on record in support of having as many minority majority districts as possible so folks get the representation that they need. Lots more information in the email. So check that email, and I can post all the links in the chat as well. I think that's it.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Amy. And Annabelle, just speak up when we have things sorted. So any other committee reports that folks have to give? Brad and Tara, do either of you have a finance committee report to give? Realizing that Tara is also helping with voting codes behind the scenes, so maybe it was not a great time to call on her.
I am ready with results.
Okay, great.
All right, let me share. Sorry for the delay, folks. We received 30 votes. Yes received 29 votes, 96.67%. No received 1 vote, 3.33%. So the resolution is adopted.
All right, thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate that. And thank you especially to Ken and Jake for coming and sharing your stories tonight. Would love to know from either of you what the next steps folks can take to lend support to this effort to get recognition for the Duwamish tribe. What are the steps our members can take and that we can ask folks to do?
Ken, I don't know if you want to say something first.
Well, first I'd like to say, in as many ways possible, thank you. And so in English, that would simply be thank you. In Lushootseed, it would be Gwidid, which means thanks. And in Tlingit, which is an Alaskan language, they use Gunulchish because we recognize that we have many Tlingit people here in Seattle. So we say that word. We say Hawa to the Haida, the neighbors to the Tlingit, and Deutschkum to their neighbors, the Tsimshian. So in all of these ways, they mean the same thing, and all of these people live here. And so we say Tleko Tleko to our Makah and our Nuchinalt friends. And we say Haiska to our Lummi friends and to our Saanich friends. Tig to our Tulalip friends, Nahomish, and the Suquamish the Duwamish, the Snoqualmie, the Muckleshoot, the Puyallups, we say Quidit because this is a local way. And so for all of your work and for all of your support, we say these things because all of these people live here. And I'm honored. So I will let Jake inform you on better ways to support the Duwamish tribe. And so thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everybody from the 43rd. This is a step forward toward justice. It is just a step. We have so much more to walk on this road, but it's encouraging to see y'all stand behind the Duwamish and with them. So thank you for that. Scott is going to put a link in the chat to the change.org petition. We're pretty close to 68,000 people. So if you could share this, if you haven't already signed, please look it over and sign. But keep sharing with your family and friends. We're hoping to get to 100,000 by the end of the year, which would be great. Helps us kind of show tangible support to our federally elected officials. And then part of the action of this resolution is to send letters out to a handful of your elected officials. So hopefully, Scott, I'm happy to help on that if needed. And then lastly, if you could share the link to the endorsers page. So we'll put you on this endorsers page, right, by the 37th. And if you can share this, if you're working with community groups, you know, or employers that are also interested in standing in solidarity with the Duwamish, please share it. There's a, if you scroll all the way down, this is the standwiththeduwamish.org /reads-me link. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a form. It's really easy. You just type a couple things in, hit enter, and we'll add you to the list. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jake and Ken. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to bring this to us and all the work you do on pushing this forward. And Camille mentioned it, our organization does pay real rent to the Duwamish tribe, but I encourage folks to do so individually as well. And I'm sharing the link for that in the chat as well. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And with that, we will move on to the second presentation in our agenda, which is going to be introduced by our policy committee chair, Camille. Camille, if you could take it away.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Ken and Jake, again for your presentation. So a lot of you may know or may not know that Seattle is currently going through its committee process to decide on a 2022 budget for the city. And so today we have Trayvana from the Solidarity Budget with us to talk about what the Solidarity Budget is, what it looks like, the process that they went through to make happen. I definitely recommend everyone read it, aside from hearing from Trayvana tonight. But with that, let me just pass it off to Trayvana to explain a little bit about what that was like, and hopefully she has permission to share her screen because I know she has a presentation for us.
Yes, Trayvana, you should have permission to share your screen now.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Trayvana Thompson Wiley. I go by Trey, better known in the community with doing organizing. I'm just a person that's from Seattle. I'm a third generation Black woman. I'm extremely passionate about change for Seattle. And I came out last year as one of the protesters. I'm really looking for change. One thing I just wanted to say pretty briefly before I go into my presentation is I would like to thank Ken Workman for coming to speak with us. And I'm extremely honored to be able to listen to you every time. I learn something new each time. As an enslaved descendant, I know what it is like fighting for your rights. And I'm just super honored to help in any way I can to be in support of your journey. I do organize with Black Action Coalition. We are super passionate about helping Duwamish folks and also helping other Indigenous tribes as well too. So I just wanted to just put that out there. Thank you so much, Kim. So I'm gonna go into my presentation about the Seattle Solidarity Budget. And I hope you all enjoy. I'm definitely looking forward to some great questions and great dialogue with y'all. I want this to be a conversation and also to just a learning experience. And then also to, you can go and actually do the work of looking through the Solidarity Budget. It's about a 60-page document. We're not gonna share 60 pages tonight. I value your time. And so thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen. Great. All right, so I hope everyone can see this. So the Solidarity Budget, what it pretty much is just a way to build a more equitable Seattle for everyone that's here. So it's super important. And just to let folks know what is Solidarity Budget. Solidarity Budget is a collective call for some type of change, especially when it comes to the city budget, so that we are actually centering the most marginalized and underserved community members, and that we're putting their needs first. For the longest, the budget has been a way for the city to dictate what they prioritize. It is now up for the community to make their voice heard, to talk about what we prioritize. Because us as being taxpayers, as us being folks that help the city move, we have a say in it. Especially when we have a budget in Seattle that is much larger than other cities. So I will just say that because I'm in a defund fellowship and I work with fellows around the entire nation, and to hear that Seattle has a $6 billion budget is like, they're like, whoa, like all that money, what can we do with it? So with the Solidarity Budget, it's super important also to understand that our struggles to make Seattle more equitable are interconnected in all types of ways, and that the Solidarity Budget was put here as a way to make sure that the city knew we were not going to pit our movements against each other, and we were going to work with one another and truly build community, because that is what community is about, working together and building. So the Solidarity Budget 2020, Solidarity Budget was launched last year due to the uprisings. I know many of y'all heard about what was going on in Capitol Hill. Maybe some of y'all were there. I was one of the folks that were there because I was extremely frustrated as a Black woman, seeing what we all saw, and I will call this what it is. It was a modern day lynching of a Black man. And I sat in my house during the global pandemic, just like we all did. I actually started a new job at the time. I was a buyer. And if you've ever know what a fashion buyer is, it's not really a job to do from home. So it's something you do with each other in the office. So starting a new job, seeing that modern day lynching, seeing the pandemic in the way that it is killing people, and primarily Black folks, Indigenous folks, how many people are losing their jobs from the Latin community because they did jobs where you have to work in person. And also the fact that they are literally struggling with the economic crisis. And also too, we have a climate crisis as well too. So the Solidarity Budget came together last year, and it was over 200 organizations that signed on to a letter that talked about what the demands were for the city. It was the first time we've ever done something like that in Seattle. And I want to just say that the Solidarity Budget is multiple community members from multiple organizations that have been doing work for years, for multiple years. And they came together with 3 main demands last year, which was defund the Seattle Police Department by at least 50%. We wanted to reallocate those funds to community-led solutions when it came to health and safety, making sure that we prioritize BIPOC folks. Also, we wanted to release protesters arrested during the uprising without charges. And it's quite interesting that we've always been taught to how to protest, and the way in which they were brutalizing my friends and other folks I knew. We were taught to protest with the American Revolution, with the Boston Tea Party. We're literally doing what we learned in school to say, hey, this is not right. We're here to take a stand, and we want something to change. So we had over 200 organizations sign on to those 3 demands. We were able to deliver it to the Seattle City Council and just say, hey, you're going to sign on to these demands. This is what the city wants. So when it comes to, and this is just a brief little description of what the demands look like visually. And this was actual imagery that was used across the entire nation from different defund campaigns. So it made the message even clearer here in Seattle, in Atlanta, and other cities that were trying to push for defund, not Atlanta, but Minneapolis and Louisville and other folks, that it's not just a spark that started just here in Seattle or Minneapolis. It's like the huge spark that happened is, of course, it started in Minneapolis, but the fact that everyone else across the entire nation, across the world said, hey, enough is enough. And we were able to come together as a community. And I was honored enough to meet some great Indigenous folks, and I was able to build some great alliances with other Black community members here in the city, with building alliances with Indigenous members of different communities, of talking to different folks who are Asian and Latinx. So it was super dope last year because you truly saw folks coming together for some type of change. So what we decided to do was for this year, instead of having the 3 demands, we said, hey, we're going to put together a budget. I was one of the many folks that worked in the budget. It was a lot of work. Jake was one of the folks as well too, that worked on this. And we came up with a budget that we really felt centered the community, that really was about investments, that was really about having, I know this is so cliche, but the new normal. So our budget in the 2022 is broken up into different sections. We have the defund, the cops and courts and prosecutors. And I'm going to go into this all a little bit detailed, high level overview, because it is a 60-page document. But one of the sections was the defund with the criminal legal system. We wanted to put budgeting in the people's hands with participatory budgeting. We also wanted to meet universal needs and support essential infrastructure through housing, transportation, childcare. No one really talks about childcare, and childcare is huge. Food sovereignty, which we all have seen, which has been super crazy. The COVID-19 has like literally exacerbated so many resources. Education, of course, being impacted by the pandemic, digital equity and internet access. And that also leads us to what is super important for what is going to have this for our future children, for our future children's children. And that's actually investing in Seattle's Green New Deal and a healthy climate future for all of us. And also the most important thing is Indigenous sovereignty, which is super, means a lot to me as a Black woman. And I'm super passionate about that. So with the defund, the cops and courts and prosecutors, we pretty much have priorities that we are focusing on getting into the budget. What you'll see from here on now is what our priorities are in our sections. And this is what we're trying to vote up to council members to try to see how we can merge. The solidarity budget should be the starting point for budget negotiations. And then there's the mayor's budget. And we want our budget to be in the mayor's budget. Primarily, we would like our budget adopted. However, we have specific asks right now that we're focused on. So these are the asks that we're focused on right now. So we wanted to decrease SPD's funding and position authority for sworn officers to 750. We wanted to end all, and I wanted to go on, if I can just, before I go to the other points, when we say decrease SPD's funding and position authority for sworn officers to 750, that's super important because based upon research, 80% of the calls that come through 911 they don't need a sworn officer to come. So we are literally investing in an department where we can literally be putting that money somewhere else because it's not being used properly. And it's literally, just imagine just a pig that keeps getting bigger and bigger. And we literally have starving folks out here. With the next line is we wanted to end all SPD spending, including hiring bonuses, technology buildings, and any other expenditures, especially the fact that we are in a global pandemic. They shouldn't be getting some hiring bonuses or new technology and things like that. We also wanted to reflect all reductions to SPD's responsibilities in the budget. A part of our 2020 wins that we were able to get, that we were able to push through, was a commitment of 20% that was going to be defunded from the SPD. Now, part of that was some reductions of responsibilities that were supposed to be taken out of the department, which still are not taken out of the budget, even though it was voted that it was supposed to be taken out the budget. And that's getting the 911 out of there, and then the parking enforcement. So we want to make sure that in 2022, because the mayor has not taken out the budget, even though it was voted upon, that money is still not in there because the responsibilities are no longer in that department, so they should not have that money. Also, we wanted to transfer community service officers completely out of SPD. It is a PR tactic. It's literally a higher pipeline for officers, and we put so much money into that when we could be investing that into other areas. With the participatory budgeting, we wanted to double the pot. With the 20% reduction that we got from SPD's budget, 30 million was supposed to be into participatory budgeting. We're still fighting to get those funds underway. So we're working with the Office of Civil Rights so that we can start literally getting these dollars allocated so that we can get some projects that are voted upon from the city. It's a democratic way of voting projects, and not just the city saying, this is what we're going to put our money to. It's the voters saying, this is what we're deciding we're going to start funding, and not the city making that decision. It's super important to invest in the Seattle's Green New Deal by putting 85 million per year for 3 years to transition all low income homes to a city of clean energy. Also an investment of 100,000 to create roadmap for community climate resistant hubs. And a huge important thing is to try our best. And this is what we're fighting for heavily, is to get the $280,000 for Indigenous-led clean energy, because our Indigenous community members, they know how to take care of the land. We should be listening to them. They should be leading the charge on the Green New Deal, because as Ken spoke so passionately earlier, they know the land and they should be taking charge of what it looks like to have a city with clean energy. Housing for all is super, super important. We want a commitment of 65% of the Jumpstart revenue so that we can actually get some deeply green, affordable housing. $30 million for 2,000 emergency enhanced shelter units, which would be super dope, especially the fact that we are going into the colder seasons. And we do know the climate is changing rapidly in Seattle. And it seems like, to me, the winters are getting a little bit colder. We also wanted to make sure that we are investing 25 million and a workforce that helps with homeless services and housing. It is super, it is very difficult to help houseless folks, especially the fact that SPD continues to sweep them. If folks who are looking to get some type of assistance, if they're swept out of a park, a case manager can no longer find them. We need to change that, especially the fact that so many folks are ready to just sweep folks out of sight, out of mind. We need to make sure that we're literally being compassionate and trying to find ways to help them. And that includes making sure that we're investing in getting them that help with the right workforce and making sure that they have everything that they truly need. Transportation is a big one. Seattle has a ton of traffic, and it is time that we invest more in our infrastructure, especially a city that is all about walking, biking, and likes to take the light rail. And the fact that it's great that we have 2 new stations. I love that, but it would be super dope, especially for our community members that live in West Seattle, is we need more bus hours. So if we get a $40 million investment, that could add 100,000 bus hours and add additional bus lanes and making sure they have the right bus authority at intersections. And that can change the landscape of traffic for folks. And then also too, making sure that we're investing in sidewalks and streets. Especially making sure that is able to be accessed by our community that needs help with wheelchairs, with our folks who are not able-bodied. We want to make sure that we are helping them and making sure that we're putting their needs first. Childcare access is super important to me. We're talking about investing 153 million in childcare. We did see in the pandemic that childcare was a huge, huge pain point for a lot of folks to try to find childcare. For BIPOC people, it's even worse because a lot of folks who are poor, who can't afford childcare, they can get in programs. However, there's a lot of strict restrictions, and also too, the wait lists are incredibly long. On average in Seattle, childcare is about $3,000 a month. That's a lot of money if you do not have help or assistance. So we need to invest in helping childcare because childcare is what helps the city. If parents don't have a safe place to keep their child while they're working, we're not having folks able to work and keep the city thriving and moving. And here is we talking about making sure that we're helping with food support and investing over 17 million and making sure that we have food sovereignty for our folks, especially helping our BIPOC producers that have been unable to grow food. So helping support them and making sure that we're able to give food to our most vulnerable residents. We're also talking about expanding in education by funding $170 million into helping an emphasis of BIPOC students and disabled students, and making sure that we're providing an area where their needs are being met culturally, socioeconomically, and that their disabilities are being met as well too. And that we're actually hiring the right folks to educate our children and the right folks that are educated around the cultural, socioeconomic, and disabilities that many of our BIPOC students face. And then we want to make sure that we're helping with digital access, especially for folks who are poor, for folks who do not have access to money. There should be ways in which we are able to get them internet. A lot of folks need to apply for jobs. A lot of folks need to clock in for Zoom, for meetings and such. And our city should be supporting that, especially with helping training the community members to be liaisons for that. And of course, getting high-speed internet with accessible support to a lot of our low-income families would be super, super helpful. And the last part of my presentation, which is super important to me, is putting our money where our mouth is. And when we say Indigenous lives matter, and when we're talking about Indigenous sovereignty, a part of that is pain, and a part of that is reparations to repair for the harm that we've done. And that $2.8 million that we are asking is just honestly a very, very small amount of money compared to everything that that folks have went through, especially our Duwamish community members and other tribal members. Is this $2.8 million will really help with the healthcare that Jake was speaking about, that Ken was speaking about, especially with the medical and social counseling and support systems that will really be amazing, and helping find ways in which we can really put money into helping with rental, food, and basic needs, vouchers for tribal members who are low income. So I hope I didn't talk too fast. I hope everyone's understood everything. I will just say I mostly worked on the criminal legal section, and there is a ton of other things in there. So I am encouraging every single person to please go and read. If you can drop in the chat the Solidarity Budget link, you can actually go and read the entire document if you'd like. You can see who's endorsed. We've had over 100 endorsers, which is super, super cool. And you can find ways in which you can tap on your neighbors and talk to them and, hey, have you heard about the Solidarity Budget? And also we are asking for folks, if you ever follow Decriminalize Seattle or Black Action Coalition, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook. We are encouraging community members to come out to public comment to speak about what in the budget speaks to them. It may not be the defund section that speaks to you. However, making sure children have childcare speaks to you. Making sure that we have a Green New Deal that actually are working towards. If you want to help with housing, there's so many great things in the Solidarity Budget that I feel like can speak to everyone, because we all have different needs and we've all been impacted in different ways. And we would love for your support coming out in public comment. And also too, you can also email your city council members. You can meet with your city council members and tell them, hey, there is this awesome budget. Have you heard about it? Are we incorporating this into the budget negotiations this year? I actually want to see some change in Seattle. And here are some, here are some great ways in which we can have some change. So you can meet with your council members. If I go to the public comment all the time. They know my name by now. They know how to say my name. They know how to say it correctly. Trayvona. And yeah, so I will turn this off right now. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Trey. Really appreciate that. So we did put the link to the Seattle Solidarity Budget website in the chat for folks. And I encourage folks to sign up for email updates so you know when they need public comment and when these things are coming up. Are there any questions for Trey? I know we're running a little late here, but if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to take this opportunity to get some of those answered. All right, Holly.
Hi, this is Holly, and you can't see me, but here I am. Hi, thanks. It was a great presentation. Thank you. I have heard about the Solidarity Budget, and I'm with the Environmental Caucus of the 43rd District. And I was wondering who worked on your Green New Deal aspects and how I could get in touch with them, because we are making comments and meeting with people.
Oh, yeah, so we had 350 Seattle that helped out a lot. What I can do is, I'm not sure if there's a way I can like put in my email. If you want to email me, or if anyone has questions or anything, too, if I'm not able to get to everything, I can connect you with the folks that made that. I'm actually going to go to public comment on Thursday. There's a public comment opportunity on Thursday around 4 o'clock where it's a special public comment, so it's not like advertised with everybody. But they're going to be talking about the Green New Deal on Thursday at 4.
Yeah, I know. Well, great. I'm glad you're going to be there because I'll be there too.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, 350 Seattle did a lot of the work on the environmental. But I'd be more than happy. I would be more than happy. Sorry, I'm tongue tied, to get you connected over to the right folks.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
That'd be great. Thanks, Trey and Holly. Love making these connections right here live. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so Linda.
So my question has to do with education, and not any objection to what you're talking about, but one of the problems we always face is when we get other money that comes not from the state or the school district funds to supplement what's going on, to add the kinds of things you're talking about, then it's taken away because we have only so much per student. And I'm wondering how you've thought about that dilemma and what it is you plan to fund.
Well, what I can do is, I haven't personally thought about that. That is a good question. I certainly can get that over to the folks that worked on that section to figure out what they plan to do with that. Because that is something that I didn't think about that for education. I thought about that for like defund, but it's the money in which like you get from like the state and other federal agencies and whatever. They'd like to play the switch round game with that. So that's a great question I can take to the group. Linda, if you want to email me, I can get an answer to you to figure out how we can stop that from happening. And that's a great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
So just a comment, the way the Seattle Families Levy was structured was to avoid that problem. So you might just want to look at that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I certainly will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. I really appreciate that. Any other questions from folks? All right. I'm not seeing any right now. So thanks so much, Trey, for joining us. Really appreciate it, and all of the work that has gone into the Solidarity Budget. I know it is a long list of organizations. I encourage folks to go look at that list, show up for public comment. It is really important. And yeah, really appreciate you joining us tonight. Thanks so much. Okay, so it is 8:59. We have just a couple more things to get through, so encourage folks to stick around with us just a little while longer. Camille and Efren are going to discuss some policy committee work, and then also I'm totally forgetting the name Voterfied. Sorry, I was like vote builder, voter letters. So I will let you two give us that update.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey, for coming. I know it was a long night. Really, really appreciate you being here and explaining all of that. So Efren and I will try to do this super fast and leave our emails for everyone for any questions. So what we have is an opportunity for everyone here, all of our members, to give a say in what our focus as an organization should be for the 2022 legislative session. We have that coming up in January. It'll be from January through April. And so like we did this past year, we want to have weekly action updates for everyone on how to get engaged with policies that are important to the 43rd Dems. And so in order to make that agenda, we want your input. And so we are using this as an opportunity to introduce more folks to the platform Voterfied, which will help us to get a little bit more engagement from everyone between meetings as a way to get your input. And so Efren and I have put together just a single question survey, ranked choice situation. And so I'm gonna share my screen so that you all can see. Efren is gonna be your go-to if you do not know how to access Voterfied. You should have received an email a couple months back that has your individual Voterfied code that will log you in automatically. But if you don't know how to find that or don't know where that is, Efren will drop his contact in the chat so that you can get that from him and make sure that you have your individual voting code. But once you have that, it'll be a direct link to this site. And currently there is only one thing on here, so it should be pretty straightforward. And that is, what should the priorities of the 43rd LD delegation be during the 2022 session? So what you'll do once you arrive to this site is you'll click Vote Now. We've got some information about some of the ideas that we have, as well as some links of some example legislation, such as things that were brought up during the 2021 session that didn't pass and we're hoping will pass this time around. So for example, HB 1099, which is in regards to climate change, 1203, which was the community oversight boards, 1304, which is a transportation bill, and then 1406, which is the wealth tax bill. You can read more about them at these links. And so then what you all are going to do to help us decide what our top priorities should be is use these arrows to reorganize these in order of your top priority to the priority that or your lowest priority for this particular session. So what do you think the 43rd Dems should be focused on in our advocacy effort at the state legislature? So you can move up and down for each thing. And then once you are finished, you'll click vote. I'm not going to click it now because I haven't actually gone through this yet in order to be able to show you. But once you click vote, it will come down here and you'll be allowed to put in one comment. So it's not like Facebook where you can put multiple comments for every vote, but you'll be able to put in one comment. So if you decide to choose an unlisted topic that you don't feel is embodied by any of the things here, you can add it in the comments. Or if you have a specific bill or issue that you know is going to be brought up, please feel free to put those in the comments as well, so that we have ideas of what people are looking at for this session. And then additionally, we will be the second Tuesday of November, which I don't actually know what the date is right now. We'll be having our policy committee meeting to decide on specific bills that we want to focus on during the session. So that is the basics of it. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Camille. And the second Tuesday of November is the 9th. And then the 16th is the third Tuesday, which will be our general meeting for November.
Yes. And so, yeah, like mentioned, if you have questions on VoterFi specifically, you can email Efren. And if you have questions about the policy committee meeting, if you're interested in attending that, I'm going to put my email in the chat as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Thibaut. So this is something we're hoping we can potentially use more going forward, and whether we do that depends on if we can get folks to engage with it. So really appreciate you all participating. So with that, I didn't hear from other committees that they had reports to give, but we do have an update from our Vice Chair, Maddie Von Hoff, with some news to share.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks everyone here for joining us this evening. While this is by no means my last meeting with the 43rd District Democrats, it is my last meeting as our vice chair. It can be really hard to know when to step away from this work, especially when there's so much good work to be done and there's so many good people to do this work with. But I started a part-time Master of Public Administration about 4 or 5 months ago. And while I've tried really hard to want to make it all work, it's just become clear to me where my focus needs to be right now in order to, step away. That way in the future that I can step back in and be more informed and more educated, to help in this fight. So really appreciate you all. It's been a great, I think, 3 years on the board and longer as a PCO, but really enjoyed my time. Of course, I'll be around, but just want to make that announcement that I will be stepping down. I believe we're opening up the position in the next meeting, and Scott will be the resource there, but wanted to thank you all so much for having me as your vice chair.
Yeah, thanks so much, Maddie. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you as our vice chair and as other board roles in the past. We would not have gotten as far as we did this year with opening a PAC and all of the other great things that we've accomplished without your efforts. And yeah, we're really proud of you going to grad school, and I expect to see you run for office in a few years here. So go get that degree and let's make it happen. So yeah, I know our whole board appreciates the work in our whole org, and I'm getting some nice messages from folks who appreciate the work you've done. So thanks so much to Maddie for all of her work. As she mentioned, we'll be electing a new vice chair in November. So if you are interested, please do reach out to me. I'll share my email here. chair@43rddemocrats.org. Please do reach out to me. We'll send out a notice, so you can just reply to that email as well. But we always need more helpers and more leaders to step up and help make this organization run. I will also share, I don't know if I've mentioned this at a general meeting before, my wife, Sammy, is 32 weeks pregnant. So we're expecting our first child in December. So I will be sticking around as well, but in a somewhat reduced capacity. So we really do need some folks to step up and help lead while I'm out there, and need a new vice chair as well. So yeah, really encourage folks to reach out to us. Would love to have you all involved. There is plenty of work to go around, and it's a really great group of people on our board who I think you all would love to work with. So, and thanks for the messages folks are sending me as well. So, so that's kind of our news announcement. We'll put more information about all of that in an email that goes out. And with that, are there any other good of the orders that folks have to share? All right, Amy.
Yeah, I really want to put in another plug for the NTK meet and greet this Thursday. If you have any questions for Nicole Thomas Kennedy, please attend. And I really want to encourage you to get your neighbors to this event. If you know anybody who's on the fence, they need to get off the fence, because this is going to be a tough fight. And we need to elect Nicole Thomas Kennedy to back up all of the Seattle policies that are making people's lives better. So I'm going to put a link to RSVP link into the chat, but I also want to tell you that there are several relational organizing events for NTK where you can learn how to talk to your neighbors, how to send emails, and how to get out that vote so that we win the Seattle City Attorney's race for the Democrat in the race. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thanks so much, Amy. And please do look for the links in the chat. Arshia, great to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Arshia Nilchian. I am the political director for Congressman Adam Smith. I just wanted to give a really quick update. I know it's been a long meeting. I definitely learned a lot here. So thank you to everyone who spoke and participated tonight. I had a couple quick updates. Adam had a virtual town hall last week centered around aviation and port issues. It was with several state legislators, and I think it was very interesting to kind of take a deep, in-depth dive into aviation policy and how the port impacts our region. That video is up on Facebook, so if anyone's interested in that, you can find that on our Facebook. And then the only other thing I'll kind of plug is that there's been some movement this week on voting rights legislation in Congress, and that has kind of been, as everyone is aware, stuck in the Senate. Adam feels incredibly strongly that it's far past time that we get rid of the filibuster. It's an archaic rule, and it's getting in the way of a lot of important legislation, and particularly voting rights. There's been some movement in that in the Senate, some potential talk of people supporting that. So I will stay on that and hopefully have a good update for you at next month's meeting. If anyone has any questions for Adam or anything they're curious about, please reach out to me anytime. I will try to leave my contact information down below in the chat box. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much, Arshia. And I do encourage folks to reach out if you have any questions about what's going on in DC. I know we all we all read the news, but and there's a lot going on. So please do reach out there. All right, Nina.
Hello. Hi. Let's see. I'm just coming forward. I have about 12 Lorena Gonzalez yard signs on my porch, and they are available to if one per household or per property. But if you want to come by and pick one up, first come, first served. Once I know I don't have any, well, I don't know how to communicate with people. So if I don't have any, they're gone. Should I don't know what the best, I can put just my address in there, or people can communicate with me, or what's the best?
Yeah, could you send me, if you direct message me your address and maybe your phone number, so folks can reach out?
Sure. Yep.
I'll share those.
All right.
Share the message here from Arshia. And then Nina, you are in Ravenna.
Ravenna, correct.
Yep. So and I will post that address here in just a second.
All right, there's my.
Great, and folks can just stop by to pick one up.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. And
exactly.
I will share Nina's phone number here.
And if you want to give me a call to see if I still have some, that's fine. So
yeah, sounds great. I just got a Lorena yard sign on Sunday, and my lawn looks a lot better. So I encourage other folks to put on too. So thanks so much, Nina.
All right, take care.
Any other good of the orders for folks? All right, not seeing any. Charlotte.
Is that a 295, or is it supposed to be, or 296, or is that supposed to be 206? The phone number.
That's a great question.
Oh, whoops. Hi, 206, sorry.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. You never know.
Thanks.
Great call.
So, yeah,
Yeah, great call. Thanks, Charlotte.
thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, thanks so much, everyone. Really powerful meeting tonight. I really appreciate our guests for joining us. I certainly learned a lot, so really appreciate that. And yeah, it's a sprint to the finish. So anything you all can do to talk to your friends about the candidates we endorse, remind them to vote. Voting turnout is probably going to be under 50%. So it's more likely than not that anyone you talk to is not going to return their ballot. So so please please encourage everybody to vote. Charlotte, did you have something else to add, or?
Oh, no, is my hand still up?
It is. Yep.
Oh, it
no
is.
worries.
All right, sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, remember to vote. Remember to remind your friends to vote. And I will see you all in November or at a Canvas. So thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, Scott, before we go, saving the chat.
Yes. That is a thing to do.
How do I do that?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Cool, cool. I'll
There's
try to see.
there's 3 dots on the rightmost side of where you would type in the chat. So if you click that, that's where you can save the chat.
Okay, got it. I just did that.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelsey. Those 3 dots are pretty small. We might have been here a while. Great. All right. So I'm going to stop the